Good afternoon, everyone. Very good afternoon. I hope you all are doing good. So, today we have started with this new report of RBI, another important report for your examination. So, this is the first class of your RBI report on currency and finance. This report, is not so technical. PDF will be uploaded maybe in the paid course, right? I'm not very sure about it. I'll let you know regarding PDF, okay? So, this is not a technical report, a very sweet and simple report this is. So, we just have to mug up the facts here, okay? Not so much relevant for NABARD, but yes, of course, there are certain data which can be asked, okay? So, you have to filter it out for NABARD from this, but directly important for RBI Grade B examination for sure, right? So, this is not like the financial stability report, although we have to complete the financial stability report also. That is the most technical reports we have discussed so far, right? But this is a simpler one. We just have to go through the lines and just mug up the data. The simpler concepts are there, simple concepts and facts, okay? So, I hope we will be able to do this report, complete this report very quickly, okay? Because I'll not need to explain everything to you here. There is nothing to be explained as such. Whatever is there, I'll do that, but not so technical. So, let's begin with this report. Just try to mug up the data. The data is important from this report, right? So, this is this year's report on currency and finance. Remember the theme first of all. The theme for this year's report is your India's digital revolution, as you can see here. India's digital revolution, right? So, this report is heavily highlighting the digital achievements of India, right? Let's begin with the analysis. So, first of all, let's see what are the overall highlights. Overall highlights. So, the introductory part says the global digital economy, as you have seen the theme as well. Theme is also regarding digitalization. The report has highlighted that digital economy is growing manifold, right? So, the global digital economy has grown 2.5 times faster than the physical world economy. So, emphasis has been given on digital economy. Digital economy at the global level has grown 2.5 times faster than that of the physical economy. Digital economy, you all must be knowing what is digital economy, right? So, all these services or everything online which contributes your digital transactions, online transactions, e-commerce, whatever contributes to your digital economy has contributed in this rise in the digital economy at the global level, right? So, what is digital economy? You know what is it, right? So, whatever digital online services they are contributing to GDP of the countries. So, global digital economy has grown 2.5 times faster than the physical world economy to account for more than 15% of global GDP. So, as per UN data 2023, digital economy at the global level accounts for more than 15% of the global GDP, right? So, it is growing faster than the physical economy. So, this has a lot of scope, right? Remember this figure, 2.5 times and then 15% of global GDP. Remember this data. This is very important. Then it is estimated that the digital economy currently accounts for a tenth of India's GDP. Now, if you see, so at the global GDP, this is 15%, but if we see the contribution of digital economy as a percentage of India's GDP, so it is 1/10. Okay, so it is almost a tenth of India's GDP. 1/10 almost of India's GDP. Remember this figure. Going by growth rates observed over the past decade, it is poised to constitute a fifth of GDP by 2026. Remember this data. So, presently, this digital economy constitutes almost 1/10 of India's GDP, but going with the trend, what is the estimate that by 2026 it will be 1/5 of the India's GDP. Okay. So, remember this figure. It shows how fast Indian digital economy is also growing in line with that of the global one. Next thing which we have is India has the world's third largest startup ecosystem. Third largest startup ecosystem. Remember this thing, third largest startup ecosystem. India has this, right? With over 1.4 lakh startups and over, so we have more than 1.4 lakh startups and we have more than 100 unicorns. Unicorns, tell me, which privately held startups are known as unicorns? How much? What is the mark which they should reach to be called as a unicorn? Tell me quickly. Anyone? What is the mark for a startup to be qualified as a unicorn? How much value it should reach? I'm waiting for your answers. So more than 100 unicorns India has, okay, third largest, and the largest number of unicorns is in USA, right? Okay. Okay, you only will tell me what is the mark for reaching, for calling a startup as a unicorn, okay? Yes, in terms of $1 billion only, what is the mark? So then if we talk about internet penetration has also increased. So this report, you know, as the theme suggests, is all about digitalization. So internet penetration in India was at 55% in 2023. Internet penetration in India is also growing. More areas are being connected to internet services and providers, right? Internet user base has grown by 199 million in the recent 3 years. So remember this thing, internet user base has also increased. It has grown by 199 million. See, these data are very, you can relate them to some pictures or some real life examples to remember, because there is a lot of data you have to mug up for this exam, right? So like this 199, आपने देखा होगा रिचार्ज प्लान्स भी ऐसे ही होते हैं, right? इंटरनेट, जब बात इंटरनेट की हो रही है, we are talking about internet. So if you see the telecom recharge plans, they are like 199, 149. The minimum I'm talking about, which they start with, right? 299. So you can remember like this, 199. Now you will remember forever. Okay. So it has increased by 199 million. 199 million. I'll let you know regarding the PDFs. Okay. I'll let you know where will it be uploaded. So 199 million in recent 3 years. This shows how much internet accessibility has increased in case of India. So remember this thing, presently internet penetration in India was at 55%, and then internet user base has increased by 199 million. Then also if you see India's cost per gigabyte, per GDP, sorry, not GDP, per GB, the cost which we have to incur of data consumed is the lowest globally. That is the reason we are able to perform best here, right? So we can say that we are able to reap economies of scale in this case. I have shared this concept of economies of scale with you number of times. So India's cost per gigabyte, per GB of data consumed, is the lowest globally at an average of, so remember this data, what is per GB cost which we have to incur for the data consumed is only 13.32 rupees. Okay, in terms of US dollar it will be 0.616 per GB. So in terms of rupees you can remember 13.32 in terms of rupees. So remember what is the cost per GB. So it is lowest. Now since cost is very low, that's why you see these companies, telecom operators, internet providers working successfully in India, and internet penetration growing faster in case of India, right? So remember this figure, 13.32 rupees only per GB of data consumed, right? Next thing, India also has one of the highest mobile data consumptions in the world. So we also have one of the highest mobile data consumptions in the world with an average per user per month consumption. So if you see an average per user per month consumption of mobile data in India, it is 24.1 GB in 2023. So it was 24.1 GB in 2023. You can remember it like this. So 24.1 GB in 2023. 0.1, you reduce 0.1, say, or you reduce 1 from 24 and then you get 2023. So 2023 or add 1. This way you can remember these figures. I'm just trying to explain you, help you how you can remember a lot of data, right? Just trying to give you some hints. It is not like this, this manner only is best or what. No, I'm not claiming that. Just giving you some kind of hints, okay? So 24.1 GB in 2023. This way you will be able to retain these figures for a longer period of time. Just remember this, okay? Now, where all those data consumption goes is a matter of wonder, but you need not wonder about that, okay? You need not wonder about that. It's just that, okay, more people are able to consume more data. So, per user per month, 24.1. Next, there are about 750 million smartphone users. So, smartphone penetration has also increased in India. There are about 750 million smartphone users, which is expected to reach about 1 billion by 2026. Remember this thing. This is also an achievement for Indian mobile phone industry and telecom industry, right? So 750 million smartphone users expected to reach 1 billion by 2026. India is also expected to be the second largest smartphone manufacturer in next 5 years. This would be a great achievement for us. So mobile, not only consumption in terms of smartphones, but also our as position as a manufacturer of smartphones is also improving, right? So India is expected to be the second largest smartphone manufacturer, second largest manufacturer of smartphones in next 5 years. Next 5 years. Moving ahead, India is going to become the fastest growing digital economy in the world with a digital ecosystem set to cross 1 trillion US dollar by 2025. Now this is again important figure. We are all set to become fastest growing digital economy in the world. Fastest growing digital economy in the world with the digital ecosystem for India set to cross the mark of 1 trillion US dollars by 2025 only. By 2025 only. Not so far, right? So remember this thing. This was a general introduction, general highlights of the report, general highlights. Now you have specific headings. Under specific headings, there are certain facts. You need not require, you don't have any need to remember all the figures. Just try to figure out whatever they have asked previously, right? And try to mug up those facts first, because there is human limitation, you cannot remember everything, right? So next heading which we have, apart from these general highlights, the first heading in the report is the state of play. So it is also regarding digital economy, how digital economy has been performing for India. So it says the term digital economy is believed to have been coined in 1996. So this term is believed to have been coined as digital economy in 1996. Now what is digital economy? You all know what is it, but again let's see the definition here. Digital economy is defined as the contribution of any economic transaction involving both digital products and digital industries to GDP, right? As I have discussed with you, any economic transaction, digital products, digital services, whatever in the digital form is contributing to your GDP in simpler terms, right? So this report says that for countries like India, Malaysia and Thailand that have been fast adopters of digital technologies, digital services, the service-oriented structure of their economies has fostered deeper forward linkages with core digital activities than others. So basically, 3 countries have been given here to you: India, Malaysia and Thailand. India, Malaysia and Thailand, they have been very fast adopters of digital solutions, digital technologies in governance, in production, in services. So these are one of the fast adopters. So they have been successfully able to link their economy, their core with core digital solutions, right? So this is the thing. Remember 3 names: India, Malaysia and Thailand. Then the report says, if you see globally, BRICS nations, they are contributing a larger share to total cashless payments than advanced nations. So if you see the BRICS nations, name the BRICS nations. So BRICS nations, tell me. Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. Yes or no? What constitutes the BRICS nations? You know, right? So it is also okay. You should be sure about all these countries. Just go through the BRICS concept and you will be able to remember. So these BRICS nations, BRICS as we call, is a short form for Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. Okay. So they are contributing a larger share in cashless payments if you compare with the advanced economies. Now there is a graph here. If you see this graph, so this color, you know, peach color, is for BRICS countries. If you see in terms of volume over the period of time, volume in terms of billions, right? This color, peach color, is for the BRICS countries, right? And this sky blue color is for the advanced economies. Now you see the share of BRICS nations, it has constantly increased in terms of volumes in cashless payments as compared to this sky blue one, which is advanced nations, right? So now you will remember that in comparison even to the advanced nations, these BRICS countries, they are contributing more in the cashless payments. Remember this fact. And remember this figure. This figure will help you remembering this fact, okay? Now, then the report says, India is leading the world with a share of 48.5% in global real-time payments volume. Now, if we talk about India's share in terms of volume, in real-time payment, so India is also one of the leaders with 48.5% in global real-time payments. So India has a share of 48.5%. Remember this figure in global real-time payments. 48.5%. Next, if you see global remittances, of course, remittances is something which we have discussed in other reports as well. So if you talk about the countries which have received the highest remittances, so India stands first. Also remember the other countries, their rankings. So global remittances, they are increasingly being affected through mobile money and digital platforms and are estimated to have increased. At the global level, remittances also have increased because now it is easier to send remittances, right? Given the digitalization and given the facility of mobile money. So if you see the figure, at the global level, remittances have increased from 857.3 billion US dollars, okay, to 857.3 billion US dollars in 2023. So up to 857.3 billion dollars are the global remittances. This is a good amount. This is a huge amount, right? So remittances have also, you can say, they have got the benefit of digitalization. That's why this volume is there, this increased volume. So remember the figure, 857.3 billion US dollars. Okay, in 2023 this figure was there. And if you see the ranking, which country has received the highest remittances, so of course it is led by India. The amount of the remittances is 115.3 billion US dollars. 115.3 billion US dollars for India. Then India, after India, you have Mexico at second, at third place you have China, and at fourth place you have Philippines, right? So remember these ranking, India, then Mexico, then China, and then Philippines. India, Mexico, China, and Philippines. Also remember the volume of remittances for India, 115.3 billion US dollars. Then if you see total value of fintech investments, fintech, you know, so there is this new world where technology solutions digital solutions are being actively incorporated by financial corporations, right? So fintech companies, fintech investments, they are standing at 61 billion US dollars globally in 2023. This is important. Fintech industry and investments are growing faster than ever, right? So what is the amount? Fintech investment at the global level is 61 billion US dollars. India is one of the top recipients of fintech investments. Remember this fact. India is one of the top recipients of fintech funding or investments in recent years. How much? With 2.6 billion US dollars of fintech investments in 2023. 2.6 billion dollars, 2.6 billion dollars of fintech investments. Apart from investments, lending from fintechs and big techs has steadily increased. So they are also getting indulged in lending activities. So apart from investment side, if you see the lending activities, lending from these fintechs and big tech firms has also increased steadily. If you see the data, from 132 billion US dollars, okay, and 22 billion US dollars respectively for fintechs and the big techs, okay, in 2015 to 223 billion dollars and 572 billion dollars in 2019. So if you see the figures respectively for fintech and big techs, it has increased from 132 billion US dollars to 223 billion US dollars for fintechs, and for big techs 22 billion dollars, say 572 billion dollars in 2019, with big tech credit projected to reach. Also, specifically, if you see the big tech credit or lending, it is estimated to reach 1 trillion US dollars by 2023. 1 trillion, right? US dollars, indicating heightened competition between traditional lenders and new players. So you have new players, you have new lenders in the market, right? This is their lending data. It is about to reach 1 trillion, crossing the billion mark. So this is important. Remember this. Now, if we talk about the Indian experience particularly in this sphere, what has been the Indian experience in digitalization and all? So now the report tells you the Indian experience, right? India has one of the largest digitally connected population worldwide. We are digitally connected worldwide, okay? Two fundamental drivers of this wave. Why are we able to achieve that? Ubiquitous connectivity. Ubiquitous means with something which is present everywhere, right? So we have connectivity everywhere now. We have good mobile penetration, we have smartphone users, we have internet user base rising, expanding, right? So it is easier to connect worldwide. Ubiquitous connectivity through mobile, internet connected devices and communication networks, then low cost computing and data storage. As we have seen, even the cost per GB, 13 point something, as we have seen, 13 rupees, around 13 rupees of data consumed. So we have low cost data consumption, we have low cost data storage. That's why India has been one of the largest digitally connected country, right? Next experience, if we talk in terms of India, India is home to second largest telecom subscriber base. Remember this thing, second largest telecom subscriber base. Okay. So you have in India the second largest population having the telecom subscribers and internet user base globally. So this is an achievement. You see, India is rising so fast. India is growing so fast, right? So not only telecom but also internet user base, we have the second largest. The growth in digital enablers. Growth in, why are we able to achieve this? Because digital enablers like, AI, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, we have been able to use these technologies, integrate these technologies in all spheres of economy, right? So these digital enablers have enabled in telecom industry, in mobile phone industry, telecom and all other industries which are there, we have been able to integrate AI, IoT and all. That's why we have been the second largest. We have the second largest telecom and internet user base. Talking about more Indian experiences, average time Indian users spend online. What is the average time which an Indian user spends online is 6.4 5 hours, which is in line with the global average, very close to the global average of 6.4 hours. Okay. So this is the average time spent by an Indian online. Then remember this data, this is important. In 2023, Indian internet users logged the second highest application downloads also at 26 billion. Remember this figure, 26 billion. 26 billion. So in 2023, Indian internet users were at the second position. So we were second highest application downloaders, right? 26 billion is the number for this. Remember, 26 billion. Second highest application downloads. Okay. Next thing, if you see the median mobile download speed, it has also increased. So this, downloading speed is also increasing, climbing from 1.3 Mbps, okay, in 2014 to 107.03 Mbps in 2024. So this is also increasing. It is also an indicative. It is also indicative of rising mobile penetration and success of internet services provided to Indians, right? And more technology, more advanced technology, lower cost, and all these things. So remember this figure as well. The median mobile download speed has also increased from 1.3 Mbps in 2014 to 107.03 Mbps in 2024. There is a huge increase, you see, right? Now, this was the Indian experience regarding internet, regarding telecom and all. I hope you will be able to remember these figures. Now we will be talking about digital public infrastructure. Digital public infrastructure. You know what is digital public infrastructure? So core concept of digital public infrastructure is providing digital platforms and these digital enablers, basically using them for governance, for services rendered by the government. Simple, right? So that the public can access the services provided by the government. In digital public infrastructure, now I hope you have understood, we have discussed this term in, I think, RBI Annual Report or FSR also. So digital public infrastructure, India has been performing very well, right? Let's see what the report says regarding this. So since its inception in 2009, the 12-digit Aadhaar has been the greatest contributor to this, right? So 12-digit Aadhaar, our unique identification number, since its inception 2009, Aadhaar has become world's largest biometric based identification system. Remember this thing. So Aadhaar is world's largest biometric based identification system with 1.38 billion Aadhaar ID holders covering 98% of the population. So Aadhaar is covering 98% of the population. You see, so much of coverage, right? Almost everyone has their Aadhaar number, unique identity. So this is one of the reasons that everyone has access to e-governance services, right? Digital public infrastructure. So Aadhaar is one of the contributors. So remember this figure, 1.38 billion ID holders, and how much population is covered? 98% of the population is covered here. Okay. Next thing, the subsequent launch. So first contributor for India's digital public infrastructure is Aadhaar. Next is launch of Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, of course. So Jan Dhan Yojana, you see these schemes, they were launched in a phased manner. So first you had Aadhaar, everyone had an identity. This is something which we also call as Jam Trinity. Jam Trinity, right? Jan Dhan, Aadhaar and mobile. This is not a fruit jam. This is Jan Dhan, Aadhaar and mobile. So Jan Dhan accounts, then you have Aadhaar, then you have mobile, right? So now everyone has a mobile, everyone has a Aadhaar number, and then you have bank accounts, Jan Dhan Yojana. Credit goes to Jan Dhan Yojana, right? Everyone could open bank accounts. This contributed to this trinity and then contributed to expansion of digital public infrastructure. Now, any benefit needs to be transferred to any targeted population. You have the mechanism for that, right? Direct benefit transfer, as we call. So this is the thing. Subsequent launch of Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana propelled Aadhaar linked bank accounts for 52.5 crore citizens, increasing threefold since 2017. Remember this figure as well. Okay. Also, more than 50% of the account holders are women. This is again important. So this is data related to women empowerment. Any data related to women becomes important for your this examination as well, both for phase 1 and phase 2. So more than 50% of the account holders are women. Remember this. And 67% of the total accounts are in rural and semi-urban areas. This is the success. So more than 67% of such accounts are in rural and semi-urban areas. This is a success. So this, if I ask you to define this achievement into one word, would be financial inclusion, right? So it is the success of financial inclusion in India. So we are able to cover the unbanked areas in rural and almost semi-urban areas, right? So remember this figure. More than 50% account holders, women, and more than 67% of the accounts are in rural and semi-urban areas. Then going further in the series, account ownership, who all are the owners in India, has more than doubled. So this bank account ownership, it has more than doubled in last 10 years from 35% almost in 2011 to 78%. So account ownership has been doubling, right? It is on a constant rise. So from 35% you have 78% in 2021 in last 10 years. Remember this figure, 35% say 78%. 35% to 78%. Now, since 2014, there have been over 116 billion Aadhaar based authentications done. Okay, over 116 billion Aadhaar based authentications have been done, and 20 billion eKYC authentications have been done. eKYC, 20 billion eKYC authentications have been done. Now, also talking about the digital public infrastructure, we cannot leave the GSTN. So GSTN, as you all know, developed primarily by your Infosys, right? So GSTN, the Goods and Services Network, which provides all your online services related to GST, has very interesting data here, which you should remember. So GSTN onboarding 1.4 crore taxpayers. 1.4 crore taxpayers and issuing over 400 crore e-way bills. So you remember what is onboarding on GSTN? So you know these GST taxpayers, businessmen, sellers, they need to register on the GSTN portal, right? Now this onboarding, these registrations have been 1.4 crores, right? And the GSTN has been able to issue almost over 400 crore e-way bills. More than 400 crore e-way bills. Now remember this data, more than 400 crore e-way bills. It is easier to remember, just remember 1.4 crore taxpayers and 4 say related 400 crore e-way bills. E-way bills are what? So these are the invoices which is a necessary document which you need to generate, right? These are the invoices of the goods which you transport. So it is generated on the GSTN portal, and then the threshold, they keep on changing. I think presently it is 50,000. If it is up to 50 or more than 50,000, then you need to have an e-way bill, right? There are specific categories in which less than 50,000 also require generation of an e-way bill, but we don't need to go in that specification. Just remember this figure: 1.4 crore taxpayer onboarded on GSTN, and then 400 crore e-way bills generated. So this is again calls for success of GST. Then if we talk about the direct benefit transfers, as I have discussed with you, what is direct benefit transfer? The amount gets directly credited into the targeted beneficiaries account. So DBT have streamlined subsidies and reduced leakages. So DBTs, what has been the success? This Jam Trinity, as I have told you, Jan Dhan, Aadhaar and mobile is the backbone of DBT, right? Direct benefit transfers. So earlier what happened was, any subsidy government needs to transfer to a targeted population, there were middlemen, right? So it resulted into leakages of those funds. The targeted beneficiary could not receive that amount. But now with everything getting directly into your bank account, there is no middleman, no such problems are there, no leakages, right? With 6.9 lakh crore transferred directly So under DBT, India has been able to transfer 6.9 lakh crores directly for 315 schemes almost. So remember, this is a great success. We have been able to eliminate the leakages. पहले आप लोगों ने सुना होगा कि पैसा सरकार ने तो allocate कर दिया, but it could not reach the beneficiary. But now these problems are not there, right? Due to DBT. So 6.9 lakh crores transferred directly for almost 315 schemes. Under such schemes, reaching 176 crore beneficiaries. So such amount under DBT has been able to reach to 176 crore beneficiaries, okay, in 23-24. Now DBTs have resulted in an estimated 3.4 lakh crore in cost savings over the years. So this much has been the amount of cost which we could save due to DBT, or due to the less of leakages now happening due to DBT, right? This is not so important figure, but just try to remember 3.4 lakh crores. Remember this thing, 6.9 and 315 schemes and 176 crore beneficiaries, 176 crore beneficiaries, right? Then if you talk about the digital payments, so digital payments, they have recorded a compound annual growth rate. Digital payments are also growing exponentially. So this area is important. I'm telling you, you should remember these figures. Digital payments have recorded compound annual growth rate of 50%, 50%. Okay. This is Indian experience. We are talking about India's experience only. So it is for India, 50% and 10% in volume and value terms. So 50% in volume and 10% in value terms. So 50% and 10% in volume and value terms respectively in the last 7 years, involving 164 billion transactions worth rupees 2,428 lakh crore in 23-24. So this is the amount of digital payments for India. So the growth in terms of volume and value is 50% and 10% respectively. Also remember that in the last 7 years, digital payments, they have involved almost 164 billion transactions worth how many rupees? How many rupees? Remember this figure, 2,428 lakh crores, 2,428 lakh crores in 23-24, right? Again, it is easy to remember 2428, 2428. Then UPI, of course, UPI has been very successful in case of India. UPI transactions, they have talked about UPI in RBI annual report as well. We have seen that, earlier we were using UPI, say P2M, peer to merchant. So we use for business transactions for payment of any things we have purchased from any seller. But now we are using it for P2P. Also the ticket size has reduced. If you remember the RBI annual report classes, we are using, say, even for transaction of 10 to 20 rupees, right? So this much smaller transactions also we are using UPI. So UPI has been a great success for India. Also UPI is now being adopted by other countries. So UPI has seen a 10-fold increase. Remember this thing, 10-fold increase in volume, in terms of volume over the past 4 years, increasing from 12.5 billion transactions which were there in 2019-20 for India to 131 billion transactions 23-24. Remember this figure, 12.5 billion transactions say 131 billion transactions in 23-24, 80% of all digital payment volume. So whatever digital payment has been done in terms of volume, this UPI only accounts 80% of all, 80% of all. Remember this thing, right? So this is 80% of all digital payment volumes. Remember, it has increased for India almost 10 times, 10-fold, 12.5 billion transactions to 131 billion transactions, okay, last financial year. Now currently, if you see, currently the UPI is recording nearly 14 billion transactions a month. In a month, there are 14 billion transactions from UPI, okay, and it has been increased by 424 million unique users in June. So if you talk about 1 month, only in June, 424 million unique users have been added. The surpassing of UPI transactions volume for peer-to-merchant transactions over the peer-to-peer segment and high volume for small value transactions categories indicate its high usage. As I told you, this thing is something we have discussed in the RBI annual report as well. We have discussed that not only P2P or P2M, now, so peer-to-merchant, peer-to-peer transactions, both kind of transactions are growing faster. Also, the ticket size, as we call technically, so we are using UPI for smaller amount of payments as well. You see, you pay, if you go to a ration shop, you have purchased, say, a packet of milk, you prefer to pay online, right? Even to the e-rickshaws nowadays, we prefer even paying even 10 rupees online, isn't it? So this is the practical thing which is going on. Then if you see DigiLocker, of course, online cloud-based depository, DigiLocker, the document repository, has issued more than 6 billion documents. So all these facts are indicative of what? India's experience, India's success in terms of digital public infrastructure. Digital public infrastructure is a very broad term. It encompasses various things, right? Various things. So apart from UPI and all, the DigiLocker has also contributed successfully to expansion of India's digital public infrastructure. The online cloud-based depository for documents is there. Now you can access your documents from anywhere, right? So DigiLocker has issued more than 6 billion documents which have catered to 300 million users in 2024. So see how much ease it has created in terms of accessing these documents, right? So remember this figure, 6 billion, more than 6 billion documents have been issued by DigiLocker, 6 billion, more than 6 billion, and then it has catered to almost 300 million users, 300 million users. Now you can relate and remember 300 million users and 3 का double कर देना and then 6 billion. Just try to remember anyway, है ना? आपको कैसे भी you have to remember the facts. Exam में no one is going to ask you कि आपने कैसे याद किया था. You remember is something which will fetch you marks, okay? So 6 billion documents catering 300 million users. Remember this thing. Yeah, I understand this is a very genuine concern. There is a lot of data to memorize, lot of data. You have to be very specific. You have to read quickly. Okay, just go through these figures. That's why I'm giving you hints in between. Ki this is the way you can remember. कुछ भी याद रह जाता है उसकी वजह से, it would be helpful. Okay. So we also need some digital infrastructure to remember these things, right? The data regarding digital public infrastructure. Okay. Now, so this was regarding India's experience or India's achievements in digital public infrastructure. Now, moving ahead, internationalization of digital public infrastructure. It is not only limited to India. UPI is expanding across borders and all these things. So, what does the report says regarding internationalization of this thing? Internationalization of digital public infrastructure. Let's see. So, basically, India's DPI is going global. This is the thing. So, it is not only restricted to India, it is going global. Collaborating with other nations to develop, we are collaborating with several nations to help them develop digital identity solutions, public infrastructure under modular open source identity platform. So, this MOSIP program is there particularly for this purpose. Modular, remember the name, modular open source identity platform. It is open source based, right? Remember this thing, modular open source identity platform. It enables developing, conceiving, adopting these digital public infrastructure or digital identity solutions for different countries, right? So remember this program. Under this, we are helping other nations achieve this thing, okay? So remember MOSIP, modular open source identity platform. Also talking about UPI, so interlinking UPI with fast payment systems of other nations, we are doing that, right? There are nations who are adopting UPI for their online transactions. So interlinkage of UPI with fast payment systems of other nations, which are the nations like Singapore. So Singapore's Pay Now, which are the countries and their payment systems with which we have been able to integrate the UPI. So remember, Singapore's Pay Now, UAE's instant pay platform, then we have Nepal's national payment interface for cost effective and fast remittances. So this has helped us in terms of remittances transfer as well. That's why you see India has been at the top receiving in terms of receiving the remittances in terms of volumes, right? So remember this thing. Now, we are also constantly partnering with other central banks for more digital service providing, partnering with other central banks and foreign payment service providers to broaden UPI's reach and RuPay acceptance as well beyond geographical borders. So we are in constant collaboration with central banks and other payment providers to make UPI and RuPay reach beyond boundaries. Simple, right? Such as in countries like Bhutan, you know this, right? Bhutan, Mauritius, Singapore and UAE. Bhutan, Mauritius, Singapore and UAE. Sharing back-end protocol. Now, what is this back-end protocol? Back-end protocol is, it is a protocol which enables agnostic technology solution. So basically, it does not, what is this agnostic means? It means it does not support only a specific kind of technology. Whatever technologies you have adopted for your payment systems and all those things, across technologies, it helps you share services, share transactions. This is back-end protocol. So these countries are the countries which share these applications on back-end protocol. I hope you understood this thing, right? You will remember this name, back-end protocol. Okay. Now, moving ahead. Sharing with nations to provide their public and private services through open, lightweight, decentralized specifications. So it helps providing these decentralized specifications and services to other countries, this back-end protocol. Okay. Now, if we talk about, this was how India is helping DPI go global. Okay. Next, expanding opportunities frontier. Economic value generated by DPI is expected to rise. Now, DPI is not only increasing the scope of e-governance, transactions and digital economy. The economic value generated by digital public infrastructure is also expected to rise to 2.9 within this range to 4.2% of GDP by 2030. So this is the range you should remember, 2.9 say 4.2% of GDP for India by 2030. 2.9 say 4.2%. Okay. Now, what does the report says on financial inclusion? So, financial inclusion, as you all know, India is the government and the RBI as well are in constant. They are putting constant efforts, concerted efforts for expanding the scope of financial inclusion for India. Okay. So globally, there has been an increase in bank account. Now, what is financial inclusion? Integrating basically more people with your financial services and systems. So banking penetration, deposit penetration, insurance penetration, bank branch penetration, all these are the indicators of rising financial inclusion. Globally, there has been an increase in bank account ownership. So globally, if you see, not only in case of India, globally, bank account ownership has increased from 61% of the adult population in 2014 to 74% in 2021. So globally, there is financial inclusion happening, right? Then, if we talk about India and particularly rural India, so in rural India, 46% of the population consists of wireless phone subscribers and 54% are active internet users. So this is again, why a success of financial inclusion? Because every bank cannot go to the remotest areas, right? So having internet penetration helps people connect with the financial services or product line offered by the banks and other financial institutions, right? So in rural India, remember this fact, this is important, remember this, 46% of the population, of rural population, wireless phone subscribers are there, 46%, and then 54 are active internet users, 54% active internet users, right? Then more than half of fintech consumers are from semi-urban and rural India. So, people who are availing these fintech services, more than half of them are from semi-urban and rural India. This is a clear success in terms of financial inclusion. I'm not sure about the number of lectures, but in this report, we will not require more number of lectures and in comparison to other reports, because this is not technical. You just have to remember these facts, right? So I'm very hopeful of the fact that we will be able to cover this very quickly. Okay. More than half of the fintech consumers are from semi-urban and rural India, and more than 1/3 of digital payment users are from rural areas. Remember this thing. This is important. Why? Because this is expansion of financial inclusion and success of financial inclusion in rural and semi-urban areas of India. In urban areas, they have access, but we were worried about rural India, right? But then, of course, this data shows that financial inclusion is there. People are being mainstreamed with the financial services, right? Then if you see, over 2 lakh gram panchayats, they have been connected through BharatNet. So BharatNet, you see, is again a very important initiative launched by Government of India. BharatNet, the objective of launching BharatNet was to provide the gram panchayats, almost 2.5 lakh gram panchayats, with broadband connectivity, right? So they have been able to access this, and over 2 lakh gram panchayats, they have been connected with, they have been provided with this broadband connectivity under BharatNet program in the last decade, in the last 10 years, enabling provision of services. So why is it important? This is decentralized administration. So enabling services only in urban areas and all is not sufficient, right? We have to reach out to the last remotest areas, last mile delivery as we call. Last mile delivery is important. So gram panchayats, they provide these services to the remotest areas. So services regarding health, so e-health, e-education, e-governance in rural areas has been successful due to such initiatives like BharatNet, which has provided broadband connectivity to almost over 2 lakh gram panchayats. Right? So this is the thing. Now, if you see gender, economic and social inequalities, what does the report says regarding gender, economic and social inequalities? So report says that globally men have outnumbered women internet users by 5 percentage points. So this is something there. If we talk about internet consumption, internet usage, men have outnumbered women globally, okay, in 2023. Remember this fact. Then for low income countries with lower income, this gap has further increased. So there is a gap. There is a gender gap in terms of access to internet services. There is a gender gap. Okay. So globally, men have outnumbered, but if you talk about particularly the low income countries, this gap has increased to 14 percentage points in 2023. With mobile ownership gap, if you see the gender gap in mobile ownership at 17 percentage points in relation to 1 percentage point for high income countries and 7 percentage overall. Overall, this gender gap in mobile ownership is 7 percentage. But if you see for high income countries, it is only 1 percentage point, right? It means there is a problem with your development levels. If you are highly developed, that translates into lesser gender inequalities in terms of mobile ownership and usage as well. So this problem is particularly for low income countries. Remember this fact, this is important. So for low income countries, it has increased to 14 percentage, with mobile penetration particularly to 17 percentage, which is just 1% for high income countries. So remember this thing. Then if we talk about further data, so the report says, despite gender disparities in internet accessibility in India also there are gender disparities. Despite that, the gender gap in internet adoption has narrowed significantly. If you see in terms of India, there is a gender gap. Okay, there is a gender gap in internet accessibility, but this gap is narrowing. This gap is narrowing, okay, significantly over the years. This is good news. Then digital gender gap. So this digital gender gap or inequalities in these accessing the digital services, internet services, mobile services, has implications for expanding the. Now, why are we concerned about this gap? Because it has implications. If there are less of women being able to access mobile services, internet services, that affects their labor force participation rate. If you remember, we have discussed in one of the editorials data regarding labor force participation, right? So what is labor force participation rate? What all are these concepts? We have discussed that thing. Labor force participation rate basically tells you how much percentage of your working age population is basically employed or seeking work, right? So it has implications. So it will reduce their female LFPR. So it has implications for expanding the female labor force participation rate, which was 41% relative to male LFPR of 78%. So you see there is a gender gap here as well. Female labor force participation rate was 41% as compared to male, which is 78% 2023. So these are certain reasons why female labor force participation is low in comparison to that of the men, because of lesser accessibility to mobile phones and internet. Also, although this is on a declining trend, this gap is on a declining trend, but then we have to achieve parity in this term as well. Okay. Then by harnessing DPIs in conjunction with social welfare schemes and structural reforms, India has lifted. So with the use of digital public infrastructure and services and all, this data is important. Remember this thing, India has been able to lift 415 million people from poverty within a span of 15 years. So technology has enabled us in lifting almost 415 million people from poverty within a span of 15 years between 2005 to 2021, right? Remember this thing, 415 million people from poverty. It is again easy to remember, 415 million people lifted from poverty in 15 years, 15, right? Next, if you talk about multidimensional poverty, it has also dropped with the help of DPI, okay, from earlier 29.1% of total population in 2013-14 to only 11.2% in 22-23, surpassing the sustainable development goal well ahead of the deadline. So this was one of the SDGs and we have achieved this before even the deadline. So multidimensional poverty, is one of the SDGs, sustainable development goals. We have been able to reduce it using these digital public infrastructure, providing people with the e-health, e-education, all e-governance platforms, right? Now, what is multidimensional poverty? So poverty, this concept is everywhere now. You have dimensional poverty index as well published in India. So who publishes it? Tell me, at the international level as well as in India, who publishes the multidimensional poverty index? This is a question for you today. You will go and find the answer. So multidimensional poverty is the concept that poverty is not only in monetary terms. People can feel deprived in a lot of ways. You can be deprived of the standard facilities provided for health to other people in the society, in terms of education, in terms of social services, other social services, right? So multidimensional, that poverty is not something only monetary, that if you are not able to spend particular amount of rupees, you are poor. No, apart from monetary terms, poverty can have various dimensions. Okay, right? So this is the thing, multidimensional poverty. So remember this figure, this is important for India. It has dropped from 29.1% to 11.2. Remember this thing, from 29.1 to 11.2. Okay, good attempt. Yes, these are the organizations which publish the multidimensional poverty index. Good. Okay, so this was regarding the multidimensional poverty index. So these were your heading. This was the heading which the report has highlighted regarding bridging gender, economic and social inequalities. These were certain facts. Remember whatever I have highlighted as important for you. Okay, next we have to resume from agriculture, addressing finance for agriculture. How has global level and at the Indian level we have been able to address with digital economy, with the help of digital economy, with the help of DPI, to address the challenges of finances in agriculture. We will resume from here in the next part of the class. I hope you have been able to understand so far. there is not so much for understanding in this report. You just have to mug up the data, and that's why I've tried to give you hints in between. How can you relate two figures with each other and try to remember them? Just go through them number of times, you will be able to retain it. Okay, need not worry about that. Any doubts so far? No doubts? Any doubts? Okay, so since there are no doubts, I'll end this session here. So we will resume from here, addressing finance for agriculture, okay, in the next part of the class. Till then, keep on studying, keep on revising these facts, okay. Don't feel overburdened with the facts. It is the fact, it is a challenge for everyone, not only for a particular person. It is a challenge for everyone, okay. So just take it easy, just give your best and leave the rest, okay. All right, so I'll see you in the next session. Have a very great day. Thank you so much. Thank you.